across the turbulent history of Zimbabwean politics, one man shines as a beacon of hope and resilience. Joshua Nkomo. Known as the father of Zimbabwe, he rose from humble beginnings to challenge colonial oppression, forging a path that would shape the destiny of a nation. His story is one of unimaginable hardships, resilience, courage, and ultimate betrayal by those he trusted the most. Born in 1917 in the dusty village of Matabeleland, Joshua Nkomo grew up in a poor family in a world where colonial oppression and segregation were the norm. Like many of his generation, he faced economic hardships and systematic racism. But unlike many, he refused to accept it.
The colonial government imposed severe restrictions on African lives. Africans couldn't own land in certain areas, their movements were controlled, and opportunities were limited. It was a world designed to keep the black men in perpetual subjugation, stripping them of their rights and systematically excluding them from economic, political, and social spheres, ensuring that black men remained uneducated and unqualified for anything beyond menial labor.
Despite these challenges, Nkomo understood the importance of education and was among the few Africans to receive a formal education. He went to South Africa to further his studies. Nkomo's time in South Africa was very transformative. He was not only just a student but an activist as well who joined the ANC. And he was deeply influenced by the growing resistance against colonial rule across the continent. Inspired by the ideals of the African National Congress Union, a powerful nationalist movement dedicated to African unity, self-reliance, and the fight against colonial oppression. The spark within him was ignited and he joined the movement. But little did he know that the journey ahead was going to be very difficult, very painful, and it was going to demand more from him. Upon his return to Rhodesia, Nkomo saw the suffering of his people with new eyes. He felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility, a calling to fight for their freedom, no matter the cost.
I want you now to show that we commit the spirit of Lumumba to the other great spirits of Africa that have led and are leading the African continent to freedom. The fire of freedom that started in the northern portion of Africa through the western portion, now on the western portion, is burning through the African continent and within a few months shall be burning in the Cape Peninsula.
As the world plunged into chaos during World War II, Nkomo seized the moment. The war managed to distract the Rhodesian government. So he went on to form the National Democratic Party, the NDP, marking the beginning of his rise as a leader of the people. His leadership, both inclusive and pragmatic, was drawing support from diverse groups across the country.
Nkomo understood that unity was essential for the success of the liberation movement. He worked tirelessly to bridge ethnic and political divides, promoting a vision of a united, independent front for all native people, but unity was easier said than done, as deep-seated mistrust and differing ideologies often threatened to undermine the collective struggle.
Nkomo also understood the importance of regional alliances. He formed strong relationships with neighboring countries and also their liberation movements. Countries such as Mozambique, Zambia, Tanzania, and they were all dedicated to helping him. And this growing influence he was having in the liberation movement did not go unnoticed. Soon, the Rhodesian government viewed Nkomo and his party a serious threat. The NDP was banned, forcing Nkomo to form another party, the Zimbabwe African People's Union, ZAPU, a political party dedicated to ending colonial rule through a combination of diplomatic and military strategies. What followed next was a series of mass protests, strikes, and eventually armed resistance, all led by Nkomo. But with every step forward, there was a price to pay. Ian Smith, the authoritarian leader who ruled Rhodesia with an iron hand, was not happy. Soon, there was a crackdown on all political activists, torture, jail time, and draconian laws, all in an attempt to instill fear into the masses. Nkomo was then arrested, but his determination never wavered. But the most painful betrayal was yet to come, from someone he considered a brother in arms, Robert Mugabe. When ZANUPF was formed, there was some members who felt Nkomo's approach was too soft, too inclusive and slow. So this faction then broke away from Nkomo's party to form the Zimbabwe African National Union, ZANU, a new political party that was going to take a more aggressive and military approach against the Rhodesian government. And as the Bush War intensified, the Smith regime weakened. Robert Mugabe was a very active member of ZANUPF, and he quickly rose through the ranks and became the public secretary for ZANUPF. But Mugabe was very smart, he was very educated and very ambitious. He saw an opportunity that he could leave ZANUPF and join the new party, ZANU. And he saw that there was an opportunity for him to actually grow within that party. And he did that. And eventually he became one of the top leaders within ZANU. And after Herbert Chitebo and other few leaders passed away in mysterious circumstances, Robert Mugabe then became the top leader of ZANU. In 1980, after Zimbabwe finally gained independence, after so much pain, suffering, and death of many comrades, the dream became a reality. For Nkomo, he finally reached the stars, but little did he know that this was all an illusion. Mugabe emerged as the leader of the newly formed nation, while Nkomo's role was deliberately marginalized. Mugabe, now in power, saw Nkomo as a threat to his authority.
The one-party state, the dissident party and its dissident father are both destined not only for rejection, but for utter destruction as well.
What followed next was a period of intense persecution, culminating the Gukurahundi massacres, a very dark chapter in Zimbabwe's history. Thousands of Nkomo's supporters were killed in the crackdown, and Nkomo himself, accused of treason, narrowly escaped an assassination.
I've never done anything wrong, and Robert knows it. I told you this is for personal power. Let him stand up and deny it. This is for personal power. He's frightened of my stature. He's frightened that he will not win the next election. This is what he's doing, trying to smear me. That's very, very sly, very dirty. Don't expect of anybody who is supposed to be prime minister of a country.
Broken in exile, Nkomo faced the bitter reality that the very people he had fought alongside with were now his enemies. Gukurahundi was a devastating blow to Joshua Nkomo and his supporters. And I think it was a stark reminder of how much Robert Mugabe was willing to go to consolidate power and push for a one-party state. In 1987, with violence continuing to tear Zimbabwe apart, Nkomo made a very painful decision. He returned to Zimbabwe and joined Mugabe's government as vice president in an attempt to end the bloodshed and promote national unity. Nkomo returning and joining Robert Mugabe's government after the atrocities he had committed to the Ndebele people was seen by a lot of people as a betrayal, because they thought that after everything that had happened, there was no way Nkomo should ever find a way to make peace with it without some form of retaliation or some form of justice. But according to Nkomo, it was for the greater good. I think he came back because he wanted to help build Zimbabwe into a unity, peace-loving nation that he dreamed of. Back in Mugabe's government with a diminished role, Nkomo continued to advocate for peace, unity, and the welfare of the people. Though his health began to decline, he remained a voice of reason and a symbol of resilience.
Violence had an aim of destroying an enemy that refused to listen to sense. And this is why we picked up arms. After we have got Zimbabwe, we do not want to see anybody, be he in authority, out of authority, using force to try and solve problems of this country. I don't care who it is. I say, I don't care whether that person is an authority or is out of authority. No problem of Zimbabwe can be solved by violence.
If you enjoy this content, comment, share, subscribe, and the next one will probably be interesting as well. Cheers. Bye.